You know, what is your stance on free will? I mean, do you truly believe that we independently make all our own choices within the decision space that we have? Some people have a bigger decision space. Some people have a smaller one. And are we being guided by a higher power like God? Or, do we all really choose? Because many of my viewers actually believe that we don't have free will.
Mm-hmm.
What is your take on it, Aaron?
Yeah. Well, man, you're pulling out all the best questions, bro.
Well,
love it.
I have to put it at the beginning. I've got a lot of great questions.
Yes, these are fun. I'll start by saying that I am firmly convicted at this point that absolutely nothing exists but the source. And so once you have that conviction, it becomes sort of impossible over time. And it's a gradual thing, but over time, it becomes less and less possible to actually have a feeling that you are doing anything. There's more of a witnessing and an unfolding mystery of each moment. You have no clue what's going to happen next, what your body's going to do next in response to the moment, because your sense of self is no longer isolated to a body that's separate from the flow of life in this moment. It's very much experienced that the flow of life is me. Inside and outside of this skin, so to speak. So the question for me is more about who are we saying has free will or doesn't? Are we saying that the body, the person, the character doesn't have free will? Then yes, I would certainly agree with that. The character doesn't have free will because the character is just a bundle of conditioning that's been molded and shaped by life. And we, the consciousness, being projected into this body, are watching it. And don't get me wrong, it's a very convincing illusion the source has put together in this simulation, right? But nevertheless, the more that you meditate and practice being the awareness, your view of the person sort of zooms out more, and you start to live with the more of the witnessing consciousness, right? And as that happens, you start to get a feel for what it means that there is no free will for the person, but it isn't. It sounds like such a limiting thing to realize, but it's actually the total opposite. Because it's not that, oh, I am this person and I don't have free will. It's, oh, I'm not the person because the person doesn't have free will. So when it comes to this conversation, which I've thought a lot about, in the last many years, what feels authentic for me is the idea that the only free will we can really say that we have, we as, let's say, souls or consciousness, a non-physical entity, the only real free will we have is to strive towards self-realization. Because any other act that one does, other than the striving towards God union, is the act of conditioning that nature has put in place, right? The character, that nature has designed this character to seek to preserve itself and enhance itself. And it has desires and fears, and it's just constantly reacting to those two things. And that's all it can ever do. It's the kind of the wheel of nature moving the person. Just like you watch a dog and you say, oh, that dog doesn't have any free will to be anything but a dog. But that's actually no different than being a person. It's just that a person has a more nuanced variety of responses, right, than maybe a dog does. But nevertheless, the more you watch the person, watch your mind, you start to see, oh man, this person just has kind of a small range of reactions to everything that are very predictable and they're repeatable, right? They just happen like a input feedback system all the time. And so you start to realize that just like being in a dream, if I'm going to wake up from a dream, any action the dream character takes other than the realization I am dreaming and I want to awaken is just the dream happening. It's the conditioning of the dream. Only when the dream character says, wait a minute, what is this reality I'm in? Is this real? Am I really this character? That we can say is not the act of the character anymore. When the person wants to wake up and says, am I really this person? Well, nature will never have that realization. Nature is designed to keep you as a person in survival of the fittest and all that. So it's only grace that is drawing the soul higher to its higher self. And just like one becoming lucid in a dream starts to go, wait a minute, I think I'm dreaming. The higher self being incarnated in this body starts to go, wait a minute, I think I'm something else than just this person. And to me, that's the only thing we can say is true free will, to want yourself, to want to know who you really are in your transcendent essence. If that's what you are, then wanting that can be the only real act of free will. Anything else is just you asleep to the bondage of your own conditioning, right?
Yeah. Very well explained. Very well explained. Aaron, I watched a video you put out a couple of weeks ago. It's a very good video where you talked about how to break like bad habits, break addictions, mostly by using meditation and affirmations. So you do believe it's possible, and that would resonate with what you just said about wanting to ascend, right? Mm-hmm. So is it, in your experience, how easy or how difficult is it to use, I forgot the Indian word, the Sanskrit word you used to word that you use to overcome these addictions?
Vasanas.
Vasanas, yes,
Yeah.
Vasanas. Can the average person, just use meditation 15 minutes a day and some affirmations, and are they going to see some type of transformation in their life, or does it go much greater than that? We have to put a lot more work in.
The answer is yes, the average person can do that if there is a real burning desire for freedom present. If there is a desire for liberation, a real desire, then all of the practices one does will be very effective. But if there isn't a burning desire for freedom from the person and the liberation of one's true nature, then all of the practices one does will essentially just reinforce the spiritual ego. If you sit down to meditate, for example, and there's a underlying belief going on inside of you that says, I am sitting down to meditate so that I can become more spiritual by the end of this meditation. That's spiritual ego's thought trying to enhance itself with a practice, right? So the burning desire for liberation is the most important ingredient for freedom, because then something about desiring freedom really expands your awareness and your acuity for seeing ego in all of its cleverness and disguises. And, the way I just described, for example, that it will even disguise itself as the meditator to fool you into secretly reinforcing it. I'm such a great meditator. I achieved such great silence in today's meditation. Truly, I am ascending. We have these thoughts, right? And it may take many years for one to become aware of those thoughts and go, oh, wait a minute, you're the voice keeping me in bondage. When we burn for freedom, like a torch in the night, it illuminates those things that we couldn't see before. And then, once again, as I said, all of the spiritual practice one does becomes very effective, because there's this feverish need to get free from the person. And only that ultimately is the demonstration of our free will. So if you love the divine, if you love God and you want to know God in its real essence as yourself, that is the one thing that will expose these tendencies, vasanas, that we have that drive us out of that state. We experience bliss, we experience oneness for fleeting moments. And then the old conditioning comes back online because the tendencies of the person and how the person thinks and what it wants come back online and then take us out of that state. And so we think that the state of freedom or enlightenment is fleeting. It comes and it goes. It's so difficult to maintain. Well, it's actually always your underlying nature, as we know. But the tendencies, the vasanas, drive us out of it. And so a great love for the divine and desire for self-realization starts to expose those tendencies. And then you can start doing, mantra repetitions and things like I talked about in that video that will have great effect. Before that, desire is born in someone, which Nobody can make that desire appear, really. It just happens when grace, when the karma has worked itself out enough that grace can meet you. But when that desire is born, to me, that's really where awakening actually begins.